This is the circle of 12. And it's a time when we do that which is beyond what you would expect. Those who have been part of this many, many times, you understand what it takes to do this. You must suspend everything you've been taught about what is possible within your spirituality. And again, even from last night, I remind you that you as a human being live and breathe in 4 dimensions. And that is your life. And even though science has discovered so many more dimensions, you still live in 4. What if I told you that the amount of dimensionality is infinite? Even that which you call dimensionality is reworked for a different scenario of dimensions. It is far more complex than you think. And what it does is to open, I would say, doors of perception, possibilities of what might also be there. The light you see is limited to what your eyes can see. The smells that you have are limited to what your body can do. What if that was different? What if you could see every wavelength that exists in all dimensions and smell everything there is everywhere, even onto other planets? I tell you these things because I want to open that possibility that all that can exist. It exists somewhere else, not here. And yet here at the same time, and not somewhere else. When you talk about being multidimensional, it actually interferes with logic. Logic is based on linearity. You are linear creatures, all humans. You think in linear ways. You have hierarchies. You have puzzles which are solved in linear ways. But none of that applies when multidimensionality occurs. You can have things within things. You can have things on and in and around. At the same time, you see them, you don't see them. Have you ever had vivid dreams where there are so many things going on that don't make sense? When you're looking at a scenario of existence where certain people in the dream shouldn't be there because some of them have passed and some of them are still there. Or some of them are different even from what you remembered. Almost all the dreams that you might have an element of multidimensionality. And that's what your brain does. And it makes no sense. In fact, some dreams you can't even remember. Or you remember them vividly and you can't explain them because they're just a bit strange. That's multidimensionality. And yet we ask you to go there. This is a new time, dear ones. And old souls have what I would call a right, a lineage. And that is this: as you awaken to a larger, unrealized truth, I want you to say to yourself, what might there be that no one has ever told me? What's bigger than I was told? And this is it. This is just one of many things. A creator with unconditional love that actually you are part of. God in you, as we say. If you even wish to use the word God, limiting it is because of what you've been told. But we invite you in this, again, this exercise, this visualization, this episode, to go across a bridge, and there will always be a bridge, because it is the metaphor from moving from one place to another. You don't open the door. You have to go across a bridge. The bridge represents anything that has a chasm between it because of the differences between them. You go from what you're comfortable with and what you know today as a human being into the unknown of that which is your beautiful soul. Now, in this exercise, you cross a bridge and you go there. But the actuality is this: your soul is always upon you. You might have actually heard the word Merkaba. That is a representative, the best that they could do to give you the idea that there is some kind of spiritual bubble energy that is invisible around you. And there is. 8 meters wide, 25, 26 feet. Every single one of you has that. And that's not actually your soul. That's a piece of it that comes in with you. Did you realize in this room, as you sit here, everyone is in everyone else's field? That's important. Because now you realize sometimes, perhaps, how things are transmitted and received when nothing is said. That you can feel joy or anger from across the room. That is your antennas of that bubble of energy. And that's just the beginning of things that are invisible, that you really can't explain. We invite you again, in a moment, to take a journey across that bridge with me. And I'll let you meet one of the most confusing elements of your life, your spiritual life. Now, we have done this before, but not quite like this. The bridge, if you want to visualize it or not, exists. It stretches across a chasm, and the chasm can be big or small. The bridge can be giant or thin. It doesn't matter. That's up to you. But in the middle of the bridge, there's a fog, and you cannot see beyond it. This takes intent and faith that you move into a safe place that you cannot see from where you are. Now, that is also a metaphor that almost everything that you're about to experience that has multidimensionality is invisible. It's invisible to your dimension, to your eyes, but it's not invisible, hardly. There is a time, perhaps, when you'll be able to see these things more clearly. Coming to your planet at some time will be an invention, and it will be technical. It will be physics. The ability to see multidimensionality at some level. And I'm going to tell you this, that when that occurs, and let's say you can put on the glasses of multidimensionality technology and you can see around, it'll take your breath away. Because even the rocks will have certain kinds of multidimensionality. And you will see human beings differently. They will reveal fields that you never knew were there. And so much will change. An aha experience when you see the reality of the invisible things around you. Now that's physics, and that's coming as well. I would love to cross the bridge with you tonight and take you to somewhere confusing. Come take my hand. Let's go. Cross the bridge with me. We're going to go through the mist and through the fog. And as we do that, we again come to this place, if you want to call it that looks any way you want it to look. But this is home. This is forever. This is eternal. This is where you belong. You were here before this universe was created, before the formation of the earth. And you'll be here long after all of that is gone. It's the most beautiful thing you can imagine. It fills your heart with solace and love, comfort, safety. It really is where you belong. You come to the earth for only a little while, you know that. And then you come back and back. It's on your own schedule, and you have choice. There's no have-tos here. There's no shoulds here. There's only love. This earth is blossoming, even as you sit here, into something it was not, even 100 years ago. You can hardly wait to get back, because suddenly you're part of the light. And you want to come back and spread it and see it grow, and spread it and see it grow, because you know what's possible. You were shown that by the Star Mothers, and where they came from, a very similar place. If you want to know your origin, I have given that to you. Look for the closest cluster of stars in light years to your own, and that's where you came from. Is it possible that there are those just like you, looking like you, who have actually gone through ascension, and part of their soul sits on them so much so that you can't tell them from angels, and that they exist in other places in the universe? And the answer is yes. Is it possible that those who have seen angels and reported them, they might not have been angels at all? They might have come from those places. Dear ones, all of these questions will be answered someday, and it'll take your breath away when you learn the truth. You've crossed the bridge, and it's time to go through a doorway with no door. And we said that last time, and we've said that every time. That's a metaphor. You don't have to open the door, but you have the choice to walk into another energy of learning. If it had a door to it, then they would require perhaps a key, and it doesn't, because you are everything there. It's your place. It's your soul. That soul of yours is more complicated than anything you could ever imagine. How complex is God? That's your soul, because it's part of the complexity of the Creator itself. And so we're simplifying this so much for you, so that it makes sense in 3D. You walk through the door and you come into another room, just like yesterday, into a room. This one, you have 4 chairs. You have yours and 3 in front of you. It's going to be another discussion. This one is going to be very confusing. You sit in the chair because you now understand, in this safe place, your home, and you're going to meet someone, maybe a group of someones, and this is where it gets confusing, because you're going to interview your guides. Let's start here. Have you noticed that many of the spiritual systems on this planet have something in groups of 3? The main system in your culture has the 3-in-1. They have separated God into 3 parts. Leave it to humanity to cut up God into 3 parts. But why 3? You look at other systems, there's also a trio, a triad. 3 is important somehow, some way. Of course, it's also part of 12. But you've always heard, perhaps in that which you call metaphysics, esoterics, that you have 3 guides. What does that mean? Who are they? What are they? Where do they come from? They appear before you it takes your breath away. You know these three. You know them as you know yourself. When you're home, you're with them. When you're on earth, you don't even know they exist. No spiritual system tells you you have three guides. You're on your own. On almost all spirituality, you're on your own to behave or not behave. To not be able to talk to God directly. Not really. There's always something, some master, someone, some human. You've got to go through them to get somewhere else. And then maybe even somewhere else. And then when you pass, well, that's another story. Dear ones, it's bigger than that. Your soul is the face of God. You're in it right now. And the guides are there, and you look at them, and they look at you, and you begin laughing. Because you recognize them. But you don't have the intellect at the moment of being home, because you have come from that which is earth, and you're simply touching that part of your soul and learning who you are, what's available, how it works at such a grand scale. We've done this almost 100 times with you, and every single time things are revealed about you on earth, and what you might have there that you didn't know about. So much bigger than you thought you were. So much more help than you thought you had. And you start to talk to the guides, and you say, I love you, and they say, this is why we're here, because we love each other. And you have so many questions. The first thing you want to know is, who are you? Who are you, really? I mean, where do you come from, and what part of the soul, and what's the system here? And the guides sit and they smile and they giggle a little, because they're always fun. And they say, dear one, your name goes here. Dear one, we are you. And you might say, how is that possible? And they would say, because the soul has a lot of parts. And we have called them parts here just for you. They're not parts at all. They're dimensions. They're concepts. They're emotions. And they're all part of that which is your soul. And they remind you that your soul is also not fragmented, but combined with so many other souls. It is so complex. There's things called soul sharing and things that happen after you pass, and part of you stays on earth and part of you comes home, and it's too much to know. But it's magnificent to think about the things you are never told. They're part of you. You mean to tell me, you say to them, that while I'm on earth, you're with me and you're part of me, but you're my guides at the same time? And they say, that's correct. And then you start looking at them a little closer, and they look just like you. There it is again. Everything looks like you in this place. Remember the bigger you had the same thing. How is it possible? How many yous can there be? How many me's can there be? And the answer is yes. This is complicated. And you start asking them this. I would like to activate you while I'm on earth. I would like to activate you because I need you. Oh, the guys are so amused. And they say to you, we love you so much, dear one. We were standing there when you were born. We're activated 100% of the time. And you scratch your head a little bit and you say, well, if that's the case, why haven't I let you do some things and guide me, guides? Why did I make all those mistakes? Why did I step in those potholes? And they look at you and they said, we had the same question. Why, indeed? Because you have free choice to feel us or not. We have touched you so many times in love. We've been in your dreams. We've held your hand. We've had our hands out when you didn't want a hand held. We've been with you all of your life. And you have separated yourselves so completely from us. Your choice. And you might say, I had no idea. I had no idea. And this is where it becomes complex, because you start asking, well, what can I do different at this point in time? How do you manifest yourself? How do you guide me? What do you do? What should I look for? And if they could, they would reach out their hand, but they don't while you're there, not yet. And they would say, calm down and listen. Here are your instructions. This won't make sense to you, but here it is. Be still and know you are God. Oh boy. What they're saying is that you are a divine creature from this soul, visiting on this planet, and are the lineage of the Creator. And that at any time you start to assume that and understand that without figuring it out, your guides are then part of you. They represent, they tell you, intuition. They represent where to move and how to go. They represent that which are your goals. They are even part of giving you the intuition of your goals itself. They help you decide what you want to do. They are there as part of you all the time. And there's so much that you put in front, a barrier of belief. Partly because you were never told. But even those in metaphysics who know they have guides don't know that. You got to let them work. And who are they? They are part of you. And that's why it feels like they're part of you. That's why you don't have to ask them questions, because they are you, and part so much so that when you let them in, it feels like love has entered you. Confused yet? Could it be that simple? It always has been. Humans want to make things difficult. What if I ask you this, and we've said this so many times, so many of you, when you leave this place and perhaps you go home, you get in your automobile, and what's the first thing you do? Let me tell you, that's a complex machine. You have to go to the glove compartment and get the manual out and read about the internal combustion engine. Of course you do. You want to know all about the transmission, don't you? The answer is, that's ridiculous. You start the car and you push the gas pedal. Really? Could it really be that simple? And that everything just works? Do you get the metaphor? You haven't complicated that. It's been made easy for you. Things work. They just work. And they do spiritually as well. If you'll uncomplicate what you think is a system from you to get to A to B. There is no system. There's just love. You can quote me on that if you want. It's beautiful. I want to leave you there talking to your guides, because it even gets more confusing, because they start telling you about the pieces and the parts that they represent that you never even knew. They start talking about your childhood, when you let them in when you were very young. They were your imaginary friends. And then as you got older, they went away, as you got taught out of them, perhaps, or became logical, or were told you couldn't do it. I think you see where this goes. Dear ones, you are dearly loved by a creative source that only wants simplicity in everything you want. Talking to yourselves, getting rid of fear, moving from A to B spiritually, all of the things that you have set up. It's easy when you just let them in. Stay for a while. Just for a while. And think about what I've told you. And perhaps at some point in time, you'll be able to again raise your hand and say, thank you, guides, now I know. Thank you for always being with me, even though I never acknowledged you. They sat with you when you cried, and you never knew they were there. And at any time you wanted, you could take on their activation because they were always ready. There's nothing like it. Feeling that which is God in you manifest in your heart. I am Kryon, in love with humanity. And so it is.